Well, everyone, it's Jess Conto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film, and we're making our way through the mid-1920s in the career of John Ford with the Shamrock Handicap. Probably wondering what the hell that means. You'll find out in a second. But I'm joined by my wife, Jess. Jess, thank you so much for coming on and doing yet another episode of John Ford here on Welcome to the Wasteland.
It's a pleasure.
I really hope you feel so. But if you haven't tuned in to Welcome to the Wasteland before, we have 3 segments on this show, including coming attractions for the week of release, August 18th. Then we'll get into our feature film, The Shamrock Handicap, and leave you with some recommendations. Now, starting with August 18th, you know, it's August. It's one of those weird times in the summer movie season, which is kind of a dumping ground, kind of where studios might throw a film that could be a risk and hopefully makes a bunch of money. Not sure about this particular summer, about the money part, but unless you're Barbie and Oppenheimer, it doesn't seem like you're doing too great at this point. But this week, we have one big movie, which happens to be Jess's pick. What are you most excited about?
Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle, which is DC's latest in their series of films, which may or may not be the last of the films before James Gunn relaunches things, because what the hell's happening with Aquaman 2? Don't know. Will it ever release? Is that going to be the world's biggest tax write-off film in history? I don't know. But for right now, at least we're getting Blue Beetle. What are you excited about?
I think it's interesting. I'm interested to see it seems like his family is heavily involved, which is not something we usually think of. Usually it's sad orphan, or
True.
I have no family, sad boy moments. So I'm interested to see that.
It's very interesting because usually it's a bunch of white people, superheroes, and obviously a lot of people of more diverse backgrounds have very, very involved families. Italian people. I'm waiting for that Italian superhero. And bada boom. That's exactly what their name's gonna be. Bada
Pitch
boom.
it, write it.
I'm gonna write to DC
Copyright
and
right
Marvel and have them have a bidding war over my big Italian superhero comic that's definitely not Super Mario Brothers. But Blue Beetle obviously is our first big Latino-led superhero movie, and you know, I think it's Zolo. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his name. All I know is he's Miguel from Cobra Kai, and I'm excited to see him be Blue Beetle, because, you know, he's definitely one of the best parts of Cobra Kai that isn't Johnny or Daniel.
Is it spelled with an X?
Yeah.
Jolo.
There we go. But it looks fun. It looks fine. George Lopez calls Batman a fascist, so he's in the know. So... But, you know, I think it looks like could be a fun origin story. And as of recording this, a whole bunch of first reactions are coming out really highly praising this. So that's exciting. You do have a couple other wide releases with Back on the Strip, Landscape with Invisible Hands, which are 2 smaller ones, genre-type films, and then Strays, which is certainly not my number 1 pick. I have a sinking feeling that's going to be terrible. But it would be a pleasant surprise to find out that it's not, and it's actually really funny.
They put all the worst moments in the trailer.
Gonna go home and bite his dick off. So
that could be funny, I guess. That's
we'll find
the
out.
only moment like that. It's not the right kind of mushrooms.
Yeah.
I'm hung up on the boldness.
Should have asked Jess, renowned,
or just Google it.
Renowned fungal expert.
I'm not a mycologist.
There you go. See, she even knows what they're called.
It's very cheap to become a member of the New Jersey Mycological Association. So
there you go.
It's like $5 for you.
If you want to find out, reply in the comments and Jess will tell you all about it.
No, I don't know that much.
Then my pick is one of the smaller films coming out this week called The Adults. Michael Cera starring as an adult man who's on a trip with his 2 adult sisters. Sophia Lillis is in it as well. I really like her. I just feel like coming off of Barbie, I kind of want to see more Michael Cera, since Alan's one of the best parts of the movie. So why not give it a try? This is a weaker week, I wasn't really excited about Blue Beetle. I am much more excited about that. So that honestly could have taken the spot. But you know what? Spotlight another film.
First.
Well, no, I already had my notes all ready to go. We have done, like, there's some weeks where it's no doubter that, like, this is the most anticipated movie. I just, at that point, I'm like, might as well throw out a little shout out to the smaller film that's dropping theaters VOD in the middle of August. So it could use it. But
Good for you, too.
Good for me. Next week actually is going to be a much busier opening weekend with some really exciting films. But that's a conversation for my buddy Jim and I for next week's episode. But our feature is the Shamrock Handicap. And fun fact, this is the name of a race.
Yeah, if you know anything about horse racing, you'll know it's a handicap. It's a type of race.
I don't. So that came to a surprise to me, but I did assume it was Irish. Based off of this movie was Irish based off of the fact that it was called Shamrock Handicap. And I guess it also has some double meanings, which we'll get to as we talk about the film and what happens to a particular Irish character in the movie. But this is from 1926, directed by John Ford. It is 67 minutes. So after last week's film, which was like a legit close to feature length. It was a feature length film. It was like an hour and 20 something minutes. This is, 67 minutes. It's just over an hour. So I guess technically you could call it a feature length film, especially for 1926. But there is not a lot of background at all about this film on the internet as I was trying to look a little bit. I do some modest research into this, mostly just from Wikipedia. But this was reserved by the Museum of Modern Art's archive, so they seem to have a lot of John Ford's films, and throw them on YouTube, because they're wonderful, and we love that.
It's funded by tax money, isn't it?
I would assume so.
The least they can do.
It's the least they can do
well,
after they...
I mean, I like MoMA. Go pay to go to MoMA if you get a chance, but, I'm just saying.
It's the least they could do after the government steals all of our money.
I think that it's like arts grant. Let's not get into politics, but I think with the arts grants, I think that's where it comes from. So
there you go. This is the first of quite a few films that had an Irish motif for John Ford, kind of leading up to his big one, A Quiet Man, starring John Wayne. That's probably his most famous Irish film, and this film also starred Janet Gaynor, the star of the original A Star Is Born, which I guess she's probably, at this point, the least famous of the four actresses who portrayed this main character.
Everyone remembers her as elderly or dead.
Well, yeah.
Or a film enthusiast.
Probably. But it's hard when you got followed up by Judy Garland. So...
What a sad movie for her to be in.
Yeah. And then Barbara Streisand in the 70s. And of course, Lady Gaga in the most recent iteration in 2019. But some of the So that's basically the only background I have about this film. But the basic plot is we have a rancher who has a bunch of horses, does horse racing, not in a great place, winds up selling a lot of his stock to this American who brings him over to start these racing, and unfortunately his main racer, Neil, who is the main male lead of this romance that is at the core of this romantic comedy, winds up getting thrown from his horse and becoming, alluded to in the title, disabled, but this is 1926, so the double meaning of handicap I think was meant to be that. But so he's disabled, he can never race again until they need him in the last act for him to jump up. Allegedly, until they throw him up on a horse.
You can overcome your physical limitations if you just believe in yourself really, really hard.
I don't think he overcame those physical limitations. I think they just strapped him like on a rocket and just hoped that he stayed on the horse.
Smack the horse. Yeah, because if your horse... There is a rule, I think, in racing. There was a jockey, I think, that had a heart attack and died mid-race, and the horse won. But you have to have a jockey on the horse. I believe that's how that goes.
So, there's that. But he also has this love story with Janet Gaynor's character.
It's a hard kind of racing, too. I think it's Hunter Jumper. Or I don't think it's steeplechase. I'm not great. Horse people don't come for me. I'm sorry.
This isn't from somebody who knows nothing about any of this. It's not the simple you run around in a giant oval race.
No,
it's like you jump.
It's cross country. I'm an idiot. I think it's cross country.
They're jumping walls and bushes and stuff like that.
Yeah, water hazards.
So having a guy strapped to the top of this who could barely walk, probably not the smartest idea. But he wanted to do it. He wanted to win. But Jess, what are your thoughts on the Shamrock Handicap?
I thought it was very of its time.
Fair. Can you elaborate on some of the things that are very much of its time?
I can.
Do you want to speak specifically about...
They use a character who is black and may or may not be disabled.
Virus Cakes.
His name is Virus Cakes.
Sounds like they just took a horse name and gave it to a man.
And he's like clearly scared or acting scared on a lot of it. And like in one part he's on the back of a horse and he falls off and everyone's like, oh, a classic vibe.
This is why we don't give them a job to do it. Just like
one step away from a slide whistle, and like it was just uncomfortable to watch. Like this poor man is clearly terrified. And...
Yeah, from what I can tell from just how this actor was acting, or how this actor is, I don't know if, like...
I think he's different. There's one other movie he was in, but I don't think he was acting like that.
Okay, well, then that's even more problematic. I think it's pretty obvious that he's acting like he has some kind of developmental disability. Yeah. It's pretty clear to me that seems like what they're getting at here.
Yeah, and he gets into, like, some... quote-unquote zany situations, and it's just really uncomfortable. Like I don't think it's funny.
He gets punched in the face and then gets up and has a razor blade in his hand. He just keeps going like...
Yeah, what was that about?
It's like, look, this is how developmentally disabled people act. It's like, wow, thanks. And then there's one really, really, really weird scene where he goes into this room of doctors.
Oh, in the hospital? Yeah, that
It looked like some kind of nightmare, and then he like slow motion runs out of the room. But
I didn't get it.
They continuously used him for laughs, which that tells me the movie is being very offensive towards people. And not only is he developmentally disabled, but like he's a black man, so like at this point you're just like compounding, because like he's one of only 2 black characters that consistently pop up into the film. And let's give a little bit of low-hanging fruit credit here. At least they are black actors. And not in blackface, because that could have very easily been the case at this point.
One pro for this movie is
so
there's no blackface.
And then the unfortunate representation of because like when he talks or like the black characters talk, they have very stereotypical accents. I did think it was funny when they had the Irish characters talk. And they wrote it out in Irish accent.
In like a super stereotypical
Irish accent. I'm just like...
Like, oi boy, and crap like that.
It's like, have a foin.
Foin.
It's like F-O-I-N-E. Yep. I'm just like, wow. And so like that's kind of funny. I could joke about that. A lot of my family does come from Ireland. I'm not laughing about the extremely racist and... also ignorant representations of developmentally impaired human beings in this film. So, like, not great. So, with that elephant out of the way, getting to the actual story of this, because, like, they're just random supporting characters that are thrown in there.
Yeah, it was a big ensemble of...
He's a random supporting character just there for laughs, and that just makes it that much worse. But...
There were a bunch of, like, random, like... There were a bunch of side stories.
Yeah, so for a 67-minute film, it has a lot of moving pieces because you have
I actually got confused.
Because you have the American guy who's like the largest, fattest person in the movie.
That's how you can tell who he is. We got him.
And then like the Irish people are in very stereotypical Irish. They have
flat cap vests.
It's checkered vests and flat caps, and so like
we have our woolen sweaters.
I did appreciate like this does legitimately look like it was shot in Ireland towards the beginning, which like
I think they used stock footage of like an actual Irish castle because that's what they look like.
Yeah, well, it seemed like a lot of the sequences and like one of the biggest things I want to throw out there is kudos to the animal actors. Because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there was a part where Virus Cakes is acting like, I couldn't tell if he was afraid of the horse or traumatized, but the horse looked legitimately concerned about him. The horse was like nuzzling him, and it was pretty cute for the horse. Not the rest of it was not cute, but the horse was like, "Hey man, you okay?"
Yeah, and then there's a lot of horse actors who are doing all kinds of fun tricks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, cross country is a hard discipline. They're jumping like up to their withers. I mean, it's a difficult thing, and the falls were probably real. There were probably multiple horses euthanized, to be honest, because there were some hard falls.
Because this is 1926 and that kind of stuff happened.
But I mean, they were good looking horses. I couldn't tell, but I'm not good with horse breeds, so.
But
I know there's something called an Irish sport horse. I don't think they were, though.
There's an Irish wolfhound. Love that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of farm animals in one particular sequence in this small Irish town during this festival.
The sheep were pretty cute.
That was probably
Ireland's known for sheep.
There's a little tiny baby sheep that just starts darting around. So, like, the early parts in Ireland are sweet. They're endearing. They're a lot of fun. I like that. I like the setup.
We would love to watch the whole movie, but it's just pastoral Ireland. Just nothing but a sheep farm.
Yep. Like Babe-esque.
I'd probably watch that.
Like...
Yeah, Babe.
Babe-esque.
Babe had some tension. I want just the
well, fair.
idyllic.
But, like, just setting-wise.
Yeah, bucolic.
Like, just on this nice little farm and stuff like that. I felt like the horse action...
The horses look great.
was great. It was really well shot.
Horses.
They did great stunts and everything. They did a great job with that.
Especially for 1926.
Yeah, Neil straight up decks a guy and puts him through a wooden panel door. I'm just like, oh! I even put in my notes, power the punch. Like, he just decked this guy.
He's Irish.
Yeah, and like, how he debriefed is like, oh, it feels like being back home fighting everybody. I'm just like, oh my god. The Irish stereotypes in this are hardcore.
It's fine to make fun of the Irish, Shane. Why not?
They took a whole entire, like, 10-minute sequence of this film to do, like, farm location gags, which didn't really feel like they did much to the story.
Yeah, they were training the horse.
They were doing that. They were digging ditches and stuff like that, and having putting laughs in there. So, like, I don't, like...
Manual labor, very funny.
I guess.
That's another part, I think, that didn't age well. Like, fine.
Yeah, it's a kind of thing where it's like, this is movies full of stereotypes. I think it has a sweet enough little romance at the center of it. It's a classic romance. There's not a lot of depth to it. But, you know, they're two young people, and you can tell they're smitten with each other.
Of its time.
Yeah, and, you know, Neil does the unthinkable, makes it through a race where he's hobbled, and they win! Hooray. So, in the end...
Yeah, you like the all caps, not title card, what are they called?
Like the dialogue cards, yeah.
The dialogue cards. All in caps.
Yep.
You did it! Exclamation point.
You did it. We did it. And the movie was over. And to be honest, this is probably one of the more solid, full films that John Ford's had up to this point. A lot of it aged poorly, but you know, it is what it is. Do you have any other final thoughts?
Murphy is an Irish cat, has a lot to say.
Yes, one of our cats is yelling, shrieking from outside the door, which I was ignoring, but then just brought to the attention of the recording.
He's Irish, Murphy.
He was named after RoboCop.
Black cats are lucky in Ireland.
He was named after an Irish cop.
They killed them all. That's why black cats are lucky in Ireland. They were associated with witches.
Good luck trying to do that to Murphy. He'd mess your day up.
At least one Irish person told me that. I'm realizing he could have been messing with me, but whatever.
There you go.
The more you know.
Look at us spreading rumors about Ireland on this story, too. But...
Okay. No more thoughts about the movie, obviously.
Okay, yeah. So we wrap things up with recommendations. What would you like to recommend to everybody?
King of the Hill. It's coming back, but also we lost...
Brittany Murphy and Tom Petty.
And Rusty Shackelford.
Yes!
Dale Gribble. Yeah. He died.
And in honor, I'm going to just run off some of my favorite lines of dialogue from Dale Gribble. Mr. John Redcorn, do your people celebrate Thanksgiving? We did once.
It's a good one.
Great. Pocket sand. Shasha.
I'm a big fan
Great.
of You'll Never Catch
Dale Grip. And then he falls over the fence and cannot complete his line.
He just passes
You know what they say about Ford tank. Fix it again, Tony. That's a Fiat, Dale. So...
Fix it again.
Tony. So, there you go. Poured one out for Dale Gribble, who is obviously my favorite character in King of the Hill. So, and Dale Gribble would be so interesting in QAnon era.
Oh, yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah, like, there's no way they can't address that. Are you kidding me?
No.
Conspiracy.
If Reno 911 can hunt down Q for a special on Paramount Plus, we're definitely going to hear about that from Dale Gribble on the 5th King of the Hill.
Remember the episode where he figures out cigarettes are trying to kill him and he becomes like a government lobbyist?
Yes!
Whatever.
Oh my god.
Also love the Stick Tech episode. That's it.
Hopefully we get more great things like that. I think Futurama is pretty funny coming back. So
I like it more than I liked the last revival, and I don't know if it's just
That was
because I'm older and less emotional.
The Comedy Central revival was dumb and more like dirty jokes and stuff, and this is much more meta.
It feels like, it feels like Futurama like it used to.
So my 3 recommendations. So the new film that I wanted to recommend, I had a couple floating around here. Well, for those who tune in and watch the show frequently know that I always give a new film, a watch list film, and one of my films that I've rewatched as a recommendation.
Thank you for the explanation. I know now.
So, my first one, which is a new film, which is streaming on Peacock, and I watched immediately the morning after SummerSlam, was American Nightmare, Becoming Cody Rhodes, which, if one thing is for sure, WWE can cut a video package like nobody's business. So a lot of the time their documentaries come out really well. The only issue is they're very WWE, like, watched. And, like, this one isn't as bad as most, and I'm pretty sure it's because Cody Rhodes really wanted this to be honest.
We love an
Which,
honest.
that's one thing about Cody Rhodes, he
Biopic.
keeps things straight. There's definitely some moments where you could feel that it's, like, washed a little bit with WWE revisionist history, because that's one of their biggest things that they like to do. Because, like, if somebody's excommunicado from WWE, they just pretend they don't exist.
Which I didn't know. I was confused. I was like, why is nobody talking
Yeah, but...
Chris Hart.
Owen Hart.
Owen Hart.
Poor Owen Hart.
Sorry, rest
Who died wrestling for WWE.
Yeah, like, I could get why you wouldn't want to bring up Chris Benoit or whatever. Like, that was a whole thing. But, like, that guy gave his life for WWE. Come on.
And, yeah, they did not handle that well, and which is why there's an Owen Hart tag team. There's Owen Hart Cup tournament in AEW instead. So there you go. But back to this,
too, though.
I really do like this Cody Rhodes documentary. It's very honest. There's definitely some good emotional moments. Because, like, this is all about, like, him trying to win the WWE Championships, about honoring his father, Dusty, who had that, like, ripped from him, and he never got to do that when he was in WWE. So, if you're a wrestling fan, this is a really good documentary. Watch list film so this is a new watch of a film that I hadn't seen before, A Matter of Life and Death, aka Stairway to Heaven. This is from the directing duo of Powell and Pressburger, who also made in the same decade in the 40s The Red Shoes and The Black Narcissus, which The Black Narcissus is like one of my top 50 favorite films of all time. And they're unmatched in the beauty that they're able to create in film. The colorization is just absolutely fantastic. And this is an interesting story of a man, a pilot during World War II, who jumps from a falling plane without a parachute. And because he fell through the fog, the angel who was supposed to grab him missed him, so he didn't die.
Oh.
And then he has a trial to prove why he should be allowed to live instead of being taken up to heaven. So it's a very interesting film that deals with the afterlife. Heaven is in black and white, really crisp, beautiful black and white. And then the earth, like the world we live in, is just this beautiful thing. And there's an incredible practical stairway to heaven in this. Literal stairway to heaven. That's really cool. It's a very interesting film. And it's a romance. Because his argument is, how could you possibly rip me from this love that I developed because of this near-death experience and everything? Has David Niven, Kim Hunter, so a couple of big-name actors. So, would recommend. thing I'm pretty sure I just watched it on YouTube. It's just there because it's from the 40s and usually you can find movies like that on YouTube. And a rewatch, which Jess and I will be talking about on one of our episodes of Wasteland Collides on the Scribe podcast, which is The Life of Aquatic of Steve Zissou, which I'm looking up at my beautiful poster of Steve Zissou next to Royal Tenenbaum, because I have 3 Wes Anderson posters up on my wall. This I put in the same category of Gangs of New York, where it's unbelievably flawed, but I still love it, and I can get past a lot of the flaws and appreciate it as a whole. The only difference is I hate the ending of Gangs of New York. I don't hate anything in this movie. I just acknowledge that some of the stuff doesn't always work properly, and Steve Zissou is a really, really, really hard protagonist to love.
He's unlikable.
Because he is such an asshole. But, it's such Bill Murray finally getting a lead performance in a Wes Anderson movie, so fantastic. Owen Wilson and Cate Blanchett, Willem Dafoe, Jeff Goldblum, Angelica Houston, and just everybody else. And the Tiger Shark. Leopard Shark. Or whatever it is. I don't care. It killed my friend. And I'm going to seek vengeance.
The tiger shark's a real...
Tiger shark is a real shark.
You're right, though.
It is a leopard shark because it has spots like a leopard.
That's how he describes it.
But Henry Selick does all the stop-motion animation in this. Incredible. So this was before Wes Anderson did it himself. He must have learned a lot before he made Fantastic Mr. Fox. But those are my recommendations, and that wraps up another episode of Welcome to the Wasteland. Next week, I'm going to be joined by my buddy Jim, who's going to be joining me for the next film from 1926 and John Ford's filmography that I forget the title off the top of my head, which is 3 Bad Men, that I just remembered as I was saying it out loud. Yep. Came to me in my time of need. But
I'm glad you knew, because that's not even a thought in my head right now.
Jess, thank you so much for joining me on yet another episode of Welcome to the Wasteland as I journey through the filmography of John Ford.
You're welcome.
Jess will be on here approximately every 6 weeks or so for the foreseeable future until I get to the meaty parts where, like Stagecoach happened and people actually wanted to volunteer for those episodes. But thank all of you.
Pitch hitter over here.
She is part of my 6-person rotation who are being really great helping me out with this. So none of these episodes are just me talking at the camera like the show used to be when I did all the Coen Brothers films and the first half of Stanley Kubrick that way. But thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.